Welcome back to Digital Futures Education. I want to go over a quick and brief class reflection tonight. Started the kids off with some, Linux skills and some Bash programming assignments, and we had a great opportunity to talk about the value of their technology skills and how they can update their resumes, how they can expand their vision towards looking past just traditional IT roles and opportunities. And tonight was a great class. I had an opportunity to speak with students about the value of their current skills in IT towards potential opportunities in IT that expand just beyond traditional, support roles, whether this involved, ed tech products, sales and support for products from a sales perspective, technical leads for sales, and basically just to expand their vision for what is possible with their knowledge and how they continue to learn and grow. That sometimes these roles within sales, in which they may be much more knowledgeable in IT, but could leverage the ability to be a good salesperson to potentially get a foot in the door. So for tonight, as the class started, I really just wanted to give students time to work and to kind of catch up on projects that were assigned last week. And part of it was, also covering the material of, Linux and open source programming and Bash and shell scripting and the value of, system administration utilizing Linux as a valuable skill. But a bigger topic kind of came out of tonight. Many have been working on their projects and had been looking to kind of expand their knowledge, and some have a wide range of different backgrounds. So I covered some of the terms from the perspective of if we were going to update our resume, and made some of the connections between system administration and user management to Active Directory and user management, and managing users, understanding the network, managing processes on a network. And so making a short list of resume items based on what we were learning. So I definitely recommend, if you're learning something, if you're in a class and you're really trying to take the skills to the next level of what is going to be, applied, to sit and kind of turn those skills into a list of action items to update the resume. And you can do this lesson to lesson. You can do this skill set to skill set. And an interesting conversation kind of came from this, this practice around, questions around the life cycle of technology. And I spoke to students about how it's not that long. It's literally 2 to 3 years. Technology comes in, kind of goes through a cycle before it needs to be updated. It needs to be budgeted for within organizations. I encourage them to look at the technology plans of colleges, universities, of corporations around how they plan on updating their technology to compete. And I encourage them to understand, just at the buying processes and the cycles, and that these, institutional processes with reviewing technology that they want to use in their organization is also an opportunity for them to think about the value of potentially looking at sales roles in IT or technical lead roles in IT that could be entry-level opportunities for them. So not only applying their technical knowledge that they have, but also starting to think about what other opportunities can they apply their technical knowledge in the workforce. So maybe this is potentially, looking at an opportunity with a company selling something for computers or technology or cloud services, and that their understanding of the market really is an opportunity for them. It's really an opportunity for them to utilize their skill set immediately. And also that once they start to look for these opportunities in an environment like LinkedIn or other places where you're going to be searching for jobs or building connections, they might find that it's worth taking the next step and applying themselves in a very specific technical area for an evolving technology. And I think that's really important, that even as you're learning tech, that you're also staying open to evolving and growing with the technology you're learning about and understanding what's next. I think that's an important part. So I think I was able to pass on a little bit of that experience tonight to my students, to just look beyond the traditional roles, but also to be aware that within every lesson, there really is something that can be applied to a resume, that can be a knowledge set or a skill that you're going to be able to utilize in the near future. I encourage them to connect with me on LinkedIn and, just to begin looking for new types of roles that are part of this technology life cycle, whether it be access points, whether it be new computers, hardware, software as a service, infrastructure as a service, cloud computing, all of these types of technologies. The market is incredibly large. You can be a programmer, you can be support, you can be a wide variety of roles. You just need to begin developing your networking skills, so that you can identify opportunities, see if they could be the right fit for you, and see if you can utilize them to take it to the next level. So one of the other big takeaways from tonight was pushing students to also envision their own steps for troubleshooting the work that they do, and also troubleshooting when they find issues. So one thing I worked on with students tonight on is identifying their own methods for troubleshooting issues as they arose with their coding and programming and the use of a virtual server. So in terms of the core content tonight, we covered command line programming, what Linux is, what it means to be open source. And I covered a lot about just some of the core tenets of Linux programming and Bash scripting, the shell, and a lot of how the projects they're working on in class, their skills and abilities are going to translate beyond these specific beyond these specific. I wanted them to identify that resilience and their ability to identify steps that they wanted to take to troubleshoot is incredibly important. And that, just taking a minute to take a deep breath and understand that troubleshooting and having a process for understanding why you're making the errors you're making and what you're going to do to correct them is incredibly important. I do think there is value in just recognizing your own process, your own way of reviewing, how you identify an issue. For many of them, I think they recognized that it was important to just slow down and to take their time and review, their projects, their assignments, double check their errors. I also encourage them to double check the technology itself and see if that was working appropriately. But we made a short list, which included, double checking all, text, using the copy and paste tools, recognizing errors or potential technical errors. But as a whole, it was just a valuable experience to take the time to address, how do we troubleshoot? How do we recognize our own errors versus that of the technology? What steps are appropriate? And I think it was valuable for them just to have them take a breath, especially on their second night, where they're starting to encounter issues and they're starting to encounter technology, that, may not be working correctly for them. And it's important that they learn how to do it appropriately and use it appropriately and recognize what is their issue versus what is that of the technology they're trying to use. So overall, it was a great class. I think they all got something out of it. I think they enjoyed the career discussion. I think they enjoyed the vocabulary that we talked about with bringing to the resume level. And at the end of the day, I think it's going to be a great short semester with them. And I look forward to, providing them with more real world opportunities and opportunities to see, what types of things they want to learn about in the tech world and how their skills are going to evolve throughout the course. So thanks for coming for a walk with me tonight, and let me share some of the reflections from my class and the connection between workforce development, current tech skills, the broader tech market, and helping students succeed. Helping them get to the next level, helping them recognize opportunities, and helping them recognize opportunities that are the right ones for them. Because things are changing so quickly. Students are often sold, ideas around what types of education are going to be good for them. And they have to figure a lot of it out for themselves. And that's a huge important part for everybody, is to figure things out for themselves with their education and their choices around what they're interested in working towards. But it's also helpful that they get a context, and that when they choose to learn about a topic or they choose to invest themselves in a topic, that they don't bury their head in the sand, and that they can provide opportunities for themselves to grow, to learn, and reach the next level. And I hope that, for all the students that I work with, that they're able to find that opportunity. They're able to, connect with people who are going to assist them, connect with people who are going to support and mentor them, and give them opportunities that are going to help make them help them have better lives. At the end of the day, that's what everyone's looking towards: is how can I get a career that's going to help me have a better life, and also help me fulfill my passions and what I'm looking towards. And at the end of the day, that's what this channel is all about. I think, these reflections are really helping me define, what my channel is all about. Important that I continue to, define this channel as a channel that helps support students, help them learn what's next for them, be a support, be a guide, be a mentor. At the end of the day, if I can help them understand the opportunities that are available to them, whether it's knowledge or whether it's a tangible opportunity for them to get a start in the tech world, I'd be happy I did that. And, for the most part, that's what I'm doing all of this for, is to, help support students, get opportunities that are going to, bring them a better future, and help them see more in themselves than they did before, and help them, apply skills that they didn't think they were capable of, and help them see the number of opportunities that I've actually seen in my own life, that I've been happy to receive and, really appreciate. So thanks for checking out the channel. I'm going to continue to try to develop more content that's reflective like this. I think it's good for me, and I think it's good for certain students to hear as well. So I hope you appreciate it if you like it. Hope you can do something for you. But it's also providing actual skill-based content, like CompTIA practice or knowledge about AI skills and workforce-related skills is really super important. And also, helping educators out there, identify what's next, think about how relevant technology is to their own work in education. And, we're all in this together, to address the needs of the workforce, technology, and all the changes that we see every day. So thanks for checking out the video. Please give a like and subscribe if you get a chance. I'll talk to you all soon. Thanks. Felt good to be back in the classroom tonight. A lot of energetic students. And one of the best parts was I had some students who I had about 2 or 3 years ago who are back or probably finishing their degree. Really nice kids, younger, of course, probably in their early 20s. Just good to see them and connect with them, and have students that I'd had before. And they said nice things from before, which was great too. One thing that I learned today as an instructor is that life's always changing and there's always an opportunity to learn something new. I had students that I feel like are still on that journey of trying to learn new things. I had students who are excited about the next step, students who are asking me what can they ask me about opportunities in IT careers, and I said of course. I had students who I know who are going to excel and are great at helping others, and I started to see a lot of that tonight. And I think that's great to see in a first night. Those relationships starting to form in the classroom is really important, and it's a really amazing thing. And I hope it continues. It's great to see students who start to become engaged with each other. Some of the amazing things we were able to cover tonight was just developing some basic fluency with coding. And I told most of them that the coding we were going to learn tonight was not really your traditional coding in terms of computer programming. It's more about Linux administration. So I wanted to reduce some of the potential anxiety around that, and also some of the potential anxiety around just being successful in the course. I think a lot goes into being successful in a computer science course right off the bat. So I think it's really important as an instructor to reduce anxiety and let students explore the process themselves, but in a format that's setting them up for success. So I made sure that I did numerous tutorials to prepare them for that next step and what they would need to do. So what I take from tonight is that even though it takes a little bit of extra time sometimes with some students, it's really important to set them up for success right off the bat, develop some relationships or revisit established ones, and try to present references for them. So the vibe in the class tonight was pretty good. A lot of eager learning, a lot of students ready to get involved. Of course, I had my high achievers who are looking to do really well right off the bat, which is always great to see. Those who asked great questions. And we had a really productive class. Many of them excited to learn more about IT, Linux administration, and many were just eager to be taking a class, especially a class that they can get done in about 7 weeks and do the hard work to make sure. And I plan on leveraging their motivation to make sure that they learn a lot, become better prepared for life in the real IT world, and also feel like that they gain some valuable skills in the process of success, of how certain things can be pretty straightforward to achieve, and just to help develop their confidence right off the bat. I think that's an important step. That's my major takeaway from tonight, is that students can be very eager to learn if you help scaffold them away from their anxiety, away from challenges or previous experiences that have held them back before. And so I think to do that, you just really need to be a little bit more mindful and thoughtful of what they may have experienced before, help them feel like they're going to be successful, give them a little bit of extra time, a little bit of extra patience, and show them that you're available, We're going to work through it one by one with them, and that ultimately it's going to be an experience that's going to be valuable, and it's going to help prepare them for a career. It's going to give them some sort of accessible skills that they can put on their resume, and understanding that they can help transition their lives from that. They can develop a skill set to help them get an entry-level career in IT, what they need to present on their resumes, what they need to do to be able to eventually move forward with their lives and be people who can present themselves as professionals, feel like they can speak to the skills that they bring to the table, and be ultimately effective employees for someone, and be troubleshooters, problem solvers, and get to the next level. So thanks for checking out the video. That's my reflection for the first night, and I appreciate you checking out the channel. Please give a like, a subscribe, and see you soon. Welcome back. Welcome back to Digital Futures Education. Tonight I want to talk about a little post-class reflection I had with students, discussing processes, technology roles, and the ever-important connection of technology skills to soft skills to ultimately career skills, and how important that connection is. So one thing that I try to do in each class is connect, skills that students are learning. In this case, command line, bash programming, and system processes programming with Linux commands. But this can apply with any technology content, that you need to be able to connect the skills to soft skills that are also associated with those skills. So for example, what other skills are associated with the ability to do a technical skill, whether it's teamwork, collaboration, the ability to work well with others and communicate really well. And then ultimately, how do those soft skills and technical skills then translate to real world opportunities? And how are those connected to your ability to then get a job, get an interview, which is ultimately one of the biggest goals, even before getting a job, is setting yourself up for an interview. How's that going to work? So tonight I did do a deep dive with students into that area and discuss with them, why it's so important to connect these three areas. So for example, as we're talking about technical skills and soft skills, it's not just about the technical skill, but it's also about the ability to identify the soft skills that are going to be necessary in the work environment that are going to make you successful. And with these particular students, I talked to them about command line skills and processes and systems that are available, that are important to know when you're working in a system administration role. But with any technology role, I think it's important not only to identify those skills, learn them, associate what other soft skills such as teamwork, compatibility, developing relationships with your team, how that's all going to work together to help you be a productive person who gets a start in a career and can showcase their skills while working. And also that it's more than just the technical. I think some people get very stuck on the technical, and that hurts their ability to relay information and share it with others. And at the end of the day, they need to be a much more flexible team worker. Welcome back to Digital Futures Education. So I've been thinking a lot about how schools teach technology skills. And there's definitely a disconnection between what is taught in schools and what is applicable in the field. And this isn't really a teaching problem per se, as much as it is a system problem. There are some major gaps in the way that we teach technology
I've lived it from both sides. I've done curriculum development for kindergarten, elementary, middle, high school, and college. And through all of those age levels, the goals are different. There's introductory elements to a concept in specific vocabulary. Then there's being able to apply what you're learning, at different levels, at different depths. And then there's the, how am I going to use this skill in the real world? And honestly, in education, the teaching of the technology often become enveloped into curriculum in a way that becomes trapped a little bit by its own best interests. Maybe it's in an up-and-coming skill that people want to make sure is applied to a curriculum. It could be, we want to make sure students know how to do this one thing. But sometimes the question why is not always asked enough, or how something's specifically done in the classroom. It's more about a vision for creating educational opportunities for students that really can help support them in the real world, as opposed to just being a curriculum. And we hope that the curriculum's goal is that, but sometimes it gets a little lost. My first point is that sometimes there is a little bit more of an overemphasis on the content. A little bit more of an overemphasis on the content than the context. And the content comes in the form of activities, programming sequences, maybe specific vocabulary, and not enough time is able to be spent on the context of the learning of the technology skill. And often that's because we often get very consumed with understanding what the word means, or making sure a student knows what that word means, as opposed to having an opportunity to have the student demonstrate in an environment or in a place that demonstrates the knowledge of the skill. And this helps and hurts learners in that some students are necessarily more inclined to maybe regurgitate and answer back, but some students may particularly be hands-on learners and may actually apply themselves differently when a hands-on opportunity is available. And one of the downsides of this is that students can be encouraged to focus the terms on the vocabulary more than the actual meaning and application of these terms, which shifts the focus of the value. Is it a course where it's really all about scoring really well on a certain type of assessment, or is it knowing about the topic and how it may occur to them in the context of their real lives? So an example of this is the teaching of a skill like what to type in a program, or a specific command like you might see in a programming class. But you might not know when exactly to utilize that skill in the real world. Now, that issue happens all the way through education. And sometimes it isn't until a person is actually on the job that they then have to reach back towards the skills that they learned and think about how they're going to apply them. Another downside of not understanding the concepts in context is that you may learn how to memorize something or know what a term means, but you may not understand this or the system's thinking needed to best utilize this knowledge. And often that's another type of experience that's not necessarily available to a student until they're out of the classroom. And our system, requires, relies on educators. Educators are educators. There are limited opportunities sometimes to bring professionals into the classroom who can fully explain, because they're not educators, the value of the system's thinking, why to learn it, other than the evidence of their job and their position and how they do it. So we see here that there's a barrier, a breakdown in the way that we're teaching technology concepts without context. Now, I would say always encourage people that if they are teachers or educators or working with teaching technology, yes, you can work towards supporting students with context, real world scenarios, projects that allow students to explore not only the concepts they're supposed to be learning, but how to do it in a specific context that does have connections to the real world. And that's great. But that does take an extra step. That is not necessarily where the focus is always applied. We know that. So just food for thought, how can we improve in that area? Some of the potential fixes could be to utilize simulations which match real world scenarios, more project-based projects that support a student, utilizing a skill for a real world outcome, and also maybe more context-based types of activities where the student has to specifically identify a context in which to utilize some of the knowledge that they have, just to make it more realistic for them. The next topic I want to talk about is career mapping into the curriculum. There's definitely a lack of mapping careers to technology curriculums across levels. I don't think it's until someone chooses a major in college that they really start to think about what do they want for a career outcome. What do they want this education that they're pursuing to mean? So I think it's okay to start students with thinking even earlier around why would you want to learn this information? Where is it applied? And what kind of jobs and career opportunities are going to come along with the knowledge you're going to gain. So as you leave high school, you have an idea of jobs and careers aligned with your skills. As you enter a collegiate or certification program, you have an idea of the skills that you're thinking about taking into a potential career, and you're aware of the jobs and careers. I think that's the challenge with not mapping curriculum back to jobs and careers. It's just a lack of student awareness around what types of jobs and careers are available with learning about a certain topic. And students are attracted to learning for different reasons. It might be a hands-on opportunity. It might be that they're just to working with numbers or computer hardware and familiarity with it. But at the end of the day, they need to know what types of opportunities are available to them and what types of decisions they're making with how they're applying their knowledge, both not only for their own personal motivation, but also for how they're going to navigate their career choices. Now, schools don't always have the introduction to this type of knowledge leads to this type of career introduction, whether it's a system administrator, technology support, a programmer, a DevOps position. Now, sometimes that is what a student needs to hear to begin to envision where all of this knowledge can eventually go. And it's important that schools begin to embrace that, understand these constantly changing and evolving positions. And with the staticness of technology curriculum and the changing job market, it's really essential to do this. Also, introduce students to job postings. Show them the types of jobs that are available. I try to do that in my own courses, is have them evaluate a job posting for the skills they have, the ones they need to maybe learn more about in order to progress in their career. But they need to think actively around, this is what a job search is looking for from a particular person that may be applying. This is what this posting is looking for. This is what this description is looking for. So it's really important to begin to show students these required skills, these things that why. They might not know exactly what they are at that point, but that's a teachable moment to then show them and talk to them around what is included in this posting and why. Ultimately, career exploration should be integrated into a technology education. A career exploration which allows students to understand their choices when they start to investigate careers around what types of skills may be needed, what type of opportunities exist, where that particular career may be going in terms of progressive technology. And it's important to have students embrace the change and understand that working in technology is exciting because it is consistently changing. Now, my fourth point is all about soft skills being ignored. Now, soft skills are definitely ignored until it's too late, right? It's important, and I do think there are educators out there in classrooms which totally support the integration of teamwork, collaboration, project work, gets students thinking about soft skills. Now, they're incredibly important. They're ignored until they're too late, often because there is an over-focus on the technical and trying to confirm that the student understands the material. And I think that's pretty good. You want to make sure students understand material. Now, it takes creativity and flexibility to bring into the classroom the necessary soft skills. And by saying soft skills until it's too late is that I think we have generations of people who've worked in technology who are great technologists, but their development of their soft skills, such as communication, collaboration, teamwork, didn't get as well developed. So how can we prevent that? What can we do? We need to embed these concepts more firmly into the skill sets. And the only way to do it is just to make sure people understand the value of the communication skills required with technology, the importance of problem solving and teamwork and collaboration with the use of technology. All of this is just really important to kind of embrace as much of as the technical skills. Also be sure that students are held accountable and graded and assessed on the use of their soft skills. It's something to help them understand the value. And be sure that students understand that these soft skills are often the reasons why people get promoted or held back from a promotion or released from their jobs, is the lack of the development of their soft skills as they're working in a tech position in tech. All of this is going to support providing students with feedback that's incredibly valuable to how they work, and to give them a broader picture of all of the areas they need to really be thinking about in terms of self-awareness and skill development as they prepare for careers in technology. This could be all the way through middle school and high school and into college. The recognition of these skills makes you better prepared. Make sure that soft skills are embedded into your teaching rubrics, how you assess, built into your teaching rubrics, built into how you assess student learning, and that you provide feedback for students in the area of soft skills. So my fourth and final reflection in this area is that technology is often taught like a static subject, and it's not. Technology is constantly changing, ever evolving animal. It requires learning about something that's going to change, but you take with it the knowledge that you gain into those changes. You're seldom are you completely learning something completely entirely new. You're always bringing your experience and your skill set and things that you've learned into new technology projects. Even as technologies change, they're built upon each other often. And the way we often teach technology is that we teach it sometimes, I won't say we always do this, is in this concept, maybe this technical skill. Now let's practice applying the technical skill. And when we're done applying the technical skills, how successful were you with your application? And pro, con, A, B, C, yes, no, good or bad. And that's great for reaffirming that knowledge. But we don't have a way of assessing preparation and resilience for when you're learning this information, taking it to the next level in terms of your knowledge, in terms of learning something new. How will you take the knowledge you learned in an entry-level IT course and transition it into a course on cybersecurity. You know, for example, if you do the CompTIA entry-level certification, are you prepared to then study for the Security Plus certification? Are you then prepared for a real-world problem or project in your entry-level IT position? Are you ready to apply for a cybersecurity job? The fear I think most people have comes from education not addressing this, because people know in the real world it's about adaptability of skills and the ability to take on projects and understand that you're not going to know it all, and there's going to be continual learning. And unfortunately in education, we don't usually teach that way. We don't usually teach in a way that asks students to know something, then plan on changing it. Ask students to firmly understand something, but what happens if this? Or firmly understand a concept and then have to understand a completely other concept, which may affect the first concept. And you see this with artificial intelligence now, in that there are groups of people developing knowledge as in artificial intelligence because they had a base skill set or they applied themselves in a certain way and they're applying themselves to this knowledge. And then we have people who are neglecting to learn about artificial intelligence because they've learned about a certain amount of things. Maybe they're satisfied where they're at with their knowledge. They're just choosing not to take it on. And it's those choices, that the choosing not to take on another skill set, that comes out of fear. It's a learned behavior, definitely. And if we were to embrace it with education more about pushing students to be ready for change, I think we'd find and be ready also to assess them on that readiness for change. I think we would have learners who are much more prepared for what the real world is bringing to them. Also, with all of this change, it's also impossible right now to keep curriculum updated in the way that needs to be updated for students to learn the proper materials. And schools are struggling with this, but they're only measuring themselves against what they have as traditional measures. They're not necessarily measuring themselves against what the world is really bringing to the table in terms of the knowledge that students need. Sooner that you recognize students need this new type of learning, you need to find ways to help adapt and support them to learn. And not only does the curriculum not move enough, it also, those who are getting the opportunities are those who have the access, the materials, and understand the resilience that's needed. And those are all taught and learned behaviors. Those are all behaviors that can be taught, learned, and built into a student's skill set, especially when you start really young. So as a closing thought, we need students to be adaptable, understand systems thinking, be resilient, and really teaches them how to be strong communicators no matter what fields they're interested in going into in technology. But our systems are not adapting fast enough. They need to be adapting much more quickly to support these necessary changes. We need to think of new ways to update curriculum more quickly, bring new experiences to the classroom for students. And at the end of the day, we really need to focus on what does the world need from our students so that we can give it to them. And how are we going to best support students so that they can provide for themselves a life that they want? So if you're a teacher, what's one thing that you think that you would do to better help students in these areas? You can drop that in the comments if you like. And as a learner, how do you think you can best prepare yourself for the changes that inevitably come with technology each year? What are your strategies? How do you like to think about this? How do you adapt? How do you get to the next level? So thanks for joining me on Digital Futures Education. Please give a like and subscribe, and I hope you come back again soon. Thanks again. So this is a video all about how I explain IT career paths to my students in about 5 minutes. So first of all, it does depend on your background. You know, a majority of the students that I have are students who may be transitioning from one career to another, and they may be carrying over some technology skills into this new career. Some of them have completed a degree and are now, looking to enter their career and workforce. And some have completed a bachelor's degree, some have completed a 2-year degree. Some of my students are working on certifications and are expanding their skill sets through certifications, not necessarily traditional degrees. So I think it's first very important to step one, where are you coming from? What skills are you bringing to the table? And with those skills, what are your plans? What's your next step? So first of all, a self-assessment about where you are, what skills you have, what you're going to try to do next, and why, and what's your goal. On that self-assessment, you are going to essentially find yourself in a couple different places. This is where we get a little more real. So first of all, you're going to find yourself in the entry-level IT help desk position scenario. This is someone who is transitioning from another industry. This is someone who maybe has just left school with a bachelor's or a 2-year degree, or someone who has maybe a high school diploma and some certifications to help support showcasing their knowledge in tech. They might even have some boot camp experiences. So that's the entry-level tier. Now, a lot of people can enter in on the entry-level tier, so there's a lot of competition. There's a heavy need to have your resume look and feel like an IT support person who has skills, experiences, soft skills, communication skills, all of the skills that would come with an entry-level position. The tier up from that would be someone who potentially has some system administration experience, some more advanced networking experience, someone who maybe has prior experience working IT support and enough experience to basically establish that they've done the entry-level role to the level in which they were then provided opportunities to learn more systems and how they integrated, maybe potentially some data management with their role. And while they worked in this entry-level role, they acquired additional certifications. They also look to advance themselves within their organization and are now looking to take the next step. So that's the step up, is having had more additional experience and are able to build off of it. Now, that career path can include jobs like an entry-level assistant network administrator, an assistant systems administrator, someone who, has some network management experience, setting up and managing networks and troubleshooting networks. There's this extension into having had more privileges than you might have in an entry-level program. Now, with those privileges comes the potential ability to have, additional reliance on your skill set. Now, we're seeing these roles are also getting more complicated by the new technologies being added. So, knowledge around AI and how that integrates with systems, advanced cybersecurity skills, more advanced than maybe a tier 1 person. So in the first tier, I will add that, AI skills, cybersecurity knowledge and network security skills are in. But at this tier 2, now you're becoming someone who's becoming more responsible for those issues on a system and how AI is working, choices of software, how things are implemented start to become part of the picture. Now, next level up in terms of IT support. So in terms of IT support, now we're looking at potential entry-level network administrator roles. These are people who've done maybe a Red Hat certification to the level of a systems administrator or more advanced Red Hat systems administrator. These could be people who've done multiple CompTIA certifications, A+, Security Plus, network certifications, CNA. So you definitely are at this level, have experience in the workplace, not only with a frontline entry-level tech support position, but also managing systems, managing a network, and now you're managing, building the network infrastructure and managing that whole process at an institution, within an organization. So you're going to have much more advanced certifications. You're going to have, certifications around network management, systems administration, network design, and you're going to have such fine-tuned experiences that you're going to be able to build networks from the ground up, and be able to choose hardware and choose management platforms. So in terms of IT support and entry-level roles, that is basically what I would put into the 3 tiers of career paths. Now, I would say at any one of these stages, you can add on additional skills which can take you into different directions. I would say one direction is maybe you're more interested in programming. You can go in that direction. You could go in a more computer science direction. You could go in a direction which is more focused on computer science, programming, skill development. But that's going to either happen probably earlier in your educational journey, maybe after some of the initial help desk experience, and it's for the person who wants more in that area. And they're looking more at doing programming, software development, and you're going to require additional coursework or self-learning to master those skills. Additional tangents off this traditional path is also going to be data management. So just remember, as I mentioned programming and I mentioned data management, these can come in a lot of different titles. They can come in titles which are flexible, different types of roles in different types of organizations, like data analysis or, a data manager. But ultimately, at the end of the day, this is where your role is much more focused on day-to-day management of data. This could be on a network. This could be within a system. And it's probably going to definitely require a cybersecurity component. So that's an important factor too. That's the crossover of the knowledge of skills that you start to see between the entry-level paths and these more advanced paths. That could also be some cloud technologies that are going to be integrated within that path. Then at the very tippity top of this are those who are higher level programmers or systems administrators who have programming skills that they not only adapt within the systems that they manage, like higher level Linux administrators, people who utilize a variety of programming languages on systems to, get tasks done within organizations. This is where, a full computer science bachelor's degree is essential, and in some cases, a master's degree in science. So that's where you're having a much stronger focus on object-oriented programming languages, different programming skills, software development, development of applications for implementation within an environment. So you're actually a developer within an environment for a specific business to help that business function better. You're not just like part of the process of developing the software. You're actually, not just creating it, but you're also creating it for an organization itself to work as an internal piece of software. But at the end of the day, that's how I would, for my particular students, frame out frameworks of career paths, especially as it relates to IT. You have your entry level, and the skill set that comes along with that could be some transferable skills from another role, and maybe you're adding to that experience with certifications, education. Then you have your middle tier, which is advancing off some experience into maybe another more niche area of that experience. And then you have your third tier, where you are developing more advanced skills. And what happens is all of these skills ultimately align with a different opportunity on the network side. I mean, all of these ultimately align with a different opportunity in the field. So you're going to have, entry level system administrator type roles. Then you're going to have network administrator, and some of those skills are going to ebb and flow between them. But ultimately, this is a 5-minute explanation. So you're going to see a lot of different variables, both in job titles, both in skill sets, and both in day-to-day work within the roles. I mean, I think different organizations utilize technology differently, and also the different types of projects you might be involved with are going to be tremendously different. But also, just a word of advice, I would be sure to include essential knowledge around AI and programming. With AI, also cybersecurity and penetration testing, and a lot of the components of what the cybersecurity roles have, so that you have that flexibility and knowledge of data handling and management. Those areas, cloud computing knowledge, different types of software that run on cloud platforms, Amazon and also Google Cloud, products. You definitely want to have a base that can kind of help you be flexible depending on the environment that you plan on working within. So thanks for checking out the video. Hopefully that gets you started down a path of better understanding what you might be looking for in an IT career. Those are different pathways, and they require different skills and abilities. So take your time. Feel free to reach out to me if you have any additional questions that you think I can help you with, and check out another video if you get a chance, and give me a like and subscribe.